This is the MyHeart.net podcast. This show is produced by Dr. Philip Johnson in conjunction with VitalEngine.com. Please welcome your host, Dr. Alain Bouchard of Cardiology Specialists of Birmingham, Alabama, at St. Vincent's Medical Center, part of Ascension.
Well, here we are. We're back with Dr. Louis Bherer from the Montreal Heart Institute. And again, we're discussing dementia prevention in patients with heart disease. So let's say I'm a patient. Actually, I'm a patient of Dr. Junot. My very good friend Martin Junot. I had a heart attack and I had a stent, and I'm referred, to you. And I'd like for you to kind of take me through. Going to the Heart Institute, going to ÉPIC, and kind of discuss a little bit what is multi-domain intervention to reduce the cognitive deficits and dementia. What does the patient experience, and see if you could make me live through some of the protocol that you're doing currently at ÉPIC.
Yeah, so ÉPIC is this rehab center associated with the Montreal Heart Institute. So basically, it's a different building. It looks like a big gym with a pool, and pretty much like you could see in all big organizations that have the chance to have one of those rehab centers. So we have
basketball court and
big basketball, badminton court. There's also a cafeteria and a restaurant down there nearby the lockers. So that it's also it's an environment. Like there's 5,000 people roughly going there. 3,000 people would be like members that register by themselves because they believe that having a preventive lifestyle will help them, or because they had family history of vascular disease. And roughly 1,500 members are patients from the Montreal Heart Institute that had a procedure at some point, heart surgery or some sort of intervention. And they've been referred to ÉPIC by the hospital, and ÉPIC would offer them a cardiac rehab program of a few months for free. After that, if they want to follow this, kind of program, they're going to become member. So we're lucky to have this huge pool of participants that are very interacting with us. So one thing I should say is that we're not there just to, do research with these patients. We really listen to them. I would give public talk to them on a regular basis every year, and stick in the room half an hour to listen to them and ask them, what do you like? What would be your new gig? And one guy told me the other day, I've just started yoga. Why don't you study yoga? And so guess what? I'm going to launch a study on yoga very soon because, so it's a real ecological interaction between members, patients, researchers, and clinicians. So we're very lucky to have this setup. And what we're trying to do right now is to try to see if, on top of the classical cardiac rehab program, having a more comprehensive intervention, what we call multi-domain intervention, will help patients to reduce cognitive deficits that they typically show when they have cardiac disease. Not all of them would show that, but roughly 40 to 50% of patients with cardiac disease do have some sort of cognitive deficits. Sometimes it doesn't impact their daily life, but it shows up on clinical tests. So it's something that you can actually measure and you can actually assess very easily. Some of them would complain about that. So we're trying to see if combining these intervention of exercise as prescribed by the cardiac rehab, but also more comprehensive exercise, not just aerobic exercise, but also strength training, flexibility exercise, topped with cognitive stimulation. For example, playing some sort of game on an iPad that would improve your speed of processing and speed of decision-making, attention, teaching them memory strategies, for example, mnemotechnic tricks so that they can help, maintain, we can help them maintain information in memory in a more efficient way. And typically our program will involve at least 3 times a week of these interventions, whereby they're going to come in the gym, spend half an hour with a student or a research assistant doing cognitive training, and then go to the gym for their session. So they will do both type of intervention 3 times a week. Of course, we coach them as well. So that's a social environment that we're offering them. And those who do the cardiac rehab program also have, the medical follow-up that's typical of people with cardiac rehab. And we believe that having this added component of cognitive stimulation will have a synergistic way of improving cognition better than just doing exercise on its own. So that's pretty much the story about the multi-domain intervention we're doing with patients that have cardiovascular risk factor or those that have heart failure, for example. And of course, the program can be different depending of the, illness. For example, if, the cardiovascular risk factor patients will be followed more than a year. With patients with heart failure, we're trying to do shorter program, 3 to 6 months, to try to see if we have an effect. And the other thing that I should say is those are individualized programs, so that it's really developed based on the baseline of the patients in any domain. So it's costly. It's energy demanding for both the patients and the team that's doing the intervention. But that's what we know is the way to go if we want to see improvement.
Now, this is COVID time, of course, and I know in our office we've been doing a lot of telemedicine. I'm sure the gym was closed for a while at the Heart Institute. Is it reopened now? Or are you doing kind of a mix of, work at home as well as, design program in the gym at ÉPIC? Or?
Yeah, definitely. We were hit like anybody in the world by the COVID situation. So we closed on March the 13th, if my memory is good, or around that date. And so all the program were stopped. What we're trying to do right now, we're planning to reopen partly in August and eventually with more people on site in September. We're hoping to reopen the studies and relaunch the study and have people doing maybe not full-time in the gym, but maybe half time. Would like maybe to have them like once a week in the gym and the other session being done in remote at home. What we did though is really early in the game in March. We didn't want to change the trials that they were, because you never know. There's a lot of involvement in this. There's a lot of money involved, and patients are engaged as well. So. And as anybody else, we didn't know about COVID. Are we going to be stuck in this for 3 months or 3 years? So we kind of put the studies on hold. But in parallel to that, I have a few postdocs that gathered together and came up with this idea of launching the whole thing online. So, and at the same time, the ÉPIC Center, the clinical team of the ÉPIC Center and the kinesiologists were developing programs on YouTube capsule. So we have a YouTube channel right now from ÉPIC, and they posted, I think it's something like 50, if not more, 50 capsules of exercise training intervention, some of which would be geared towards intervention, aerobic training, stretching, some for patients with cardiovascular risk factors, some more targeting more specifically people with heart failure, for example. So adapted to all the groups that we had already. So Valérie Guilbeault, the head of the kinesiologist, was extremely efficient. In a few weeks, they started to develop that. So when I heard that, I was like, okay, my postdoc wants to do online training. The whole kinesiologist team is launching these video capsules. Why don't we start just this mixed multi-domain intervention at home? And within a few weeks, everything was up and running. So I'm lucky to have this wonderful team of researchers with me. And we launched in April the study that we called COVEPIC, which is the training at home of the multi-domain intervention. So, and we didn't do it, there's multiple ways to do stuff at home. You can be fully robotic and very virtual, or as we thought would be more efficient, because we're dealing with older adults that are used at ÉPIC to have a very strong social interaction. We decided to mix it so that we have a personal contact with them. We have a student or a research trainee calling every one of these guys every week, just to update, what's going on. Did you do your training capsule? How did it go? Did you do your cognitive training? How did it go? Sometimes it's 10 minutes call just to, people would say, oh yeah, everything's fine. Just, perfectly done. Some other people would need a little bit more of social interaction and encouragement, I would say. So that we don't do it just remote, but also, it's remote, of course, but we're trying to incorporate to it the social interaction that we believe is extremely important in intervention studies. And there's more study right now showing that social interaction as itself has an impact on cognition in older adults. Just re-socializing, reconnecting with people would have an impact. So could be added as a third domain, extremely important, not just for motivation. Of course, it comes with motivation. We all know that doing sport with friends, would push it a little bit more. But also by itself, cognition, when you think about social interaction, it's an extremely complex cognitive engagement, right? And if you don't believe me, just go pick up a fight with your wife. You will see that your brain is working hard trying to find arguments and response. And, so,
I try not to do that.
Well, let's try not to do that, of course.
My own health.
Yeah. I'm making the point so that you remember. But, I guess what I'm trying to say is that social interaction is extremely important for brain function. And the reverse is also true. As people become more lonely and extract themselves from the social network, they start to show cognitive decline. Now, again, we don't know what comes first, right? Is this because at some point they feel this cognitive deficits that they will, kind of interact a little bit less, or is it because the social isolation has an impact on brain function? This is still a matter of debate, but I think that everybody will agree that it goes together. So, we're trying to incorporate that in our intervention, making sure that it's not just going to the gym as rat running on a wheel, but it's also, interacting with people and combining it in a way that your brain is stimulated to the best you can do.
Certainly, that's one of the reasons why my son loves the Peloton, is you can exercise and compete with people all around the world, all on the cloud. Have you started some Zoom classes of, having, several, people on Zoom doing their kind of a cardiac rehab activity together with
actually, we're using Zoom we're using Zoom for the intervention itself. We don't do it for training right now. The fitness training we ask them to follow capsules, but we do the testing with Zoom though. So we can do functional testing, cognitive testing as well with Zoom. And that's pretty much a recommendation anyway for us right now in Quebec, is to reduce social contact the most we can. So,
that's great effort. And certainly all of us have had some cabin fever and isolation, not good for prevention of dementia right now, and we really need to interact with one another. Well, Louis, let's move a little bit into your research. Obviously, you're very active in research, and see if you could discuss maybe with us the program that you have, the impact of exercise and cognitive training on neurocognitive function in adults with cardiovascular risk factors, on cognition and vasoreactivity in patients, men and women, with heart failure.
Yeah. So the whole research program is around how can you do non-pharmaceutical intervention, so just lifestyle intervention that would have a real impact on cognition here and now. Of course, we're not pretending that we're going to make sure you'll never develop dementia. This is not something we can guarantee, but one thing that we know, and all clinicians know that, is that the postponing cognitive deficit is the key, right? The latest you start showing cognitive deficit, the longest you will live without dementia. That's the key. So we're trying to boost cognition, so to speak. Of course, in a way that's going to be maintained for a while if we can. And the first way to do that is cognitive stimulation. So we're trying to hit where cognition start to fade off, so to speak, which is speed of processing, executive function, which in many studies start way before memory deficits occur, sometimes 5 to 10 years before you have a memory deficit. You have slowing of processing, you have inattention, you have an inability to do multiple tasks at the same time. All these controlled process or executive control functions are extremely sensitive to age and any type of situation, actually, but especially to age. So we're trying to develop programs that will help stimulate and maybe maintain these functions as long as we can. To this, we add physical exercise intervention. That includes a heavy load of aerobic exercise, but also a major portion of the whole program is strength training exercise, as we know has an impact on brain function and cognition in general. We also, as I said earlier, try to do it in a way that the patient is surrounded in the program. So there's a social connection with the team. And one of the things that I do a lot as a researcher is make sure that my staff is dealing with my patients as clients, and they're customers. Like you want them to be happy, and of course because they give a lot of their time to research, but also because ethically speaking, we want to make a difference, and we want them to maintain this lifestyle. So we're not the only group doing that. Of course, there's many groups in the world doing this. One of the, and many would do that in healthy patient or patient with mild cognitive impairment or dementia. One of the peculiarity of our group is we do it as well with patients with cardiovascular disease and cardiac disease. And I don't think there's many group out there doing intervention that targets cognition with these patients. My argument to sell this to the clinician and the cardiologist is always to say, at the end, when patients are leaving your office, you don't know if they're going to take their medication, right? But if you want them to be able to take their medication, they have to not forget to take their medication and to plan and to take the right decision and to engage in the program. So their brain is key, right? If they don't use their brain properly, their heart will suffer. So it's a two-way direction, two-way street between heart and brain. And we know that heart disease impact the brain, but if you have some brain deficits, you're not going to be able to help your heart as well. So it's really the way I'm trying to sell this story to all the clinicians I'm working with. And so far, so good. I mean, we've been sponsored by, we've been founded by the Canadian Institute of Health and many other organizations to run these studies and trying to see if in heart patients, these type of intervention will help prevent cognitive deficits and help prevent them to develop dementia, because we know that they are the patients that have the very, very high risk to develop dementia.
There's another big consortium that you're involved with, and I wanted to see maybe if you could discuss the role and impact of this Canadian consortium on neurodegenerative changes in aging.
Yeah, the CCNA is the Canadian the Canadian Consortium on Neurodegeneration and Aging is extremely important in Canada. It's been running since, I would say, roughly around 2012 or 2013. It's been led by Howard Churtko, who was previously at McGill University, is now at the Bherer Center in Toronto. And so Dr. Churtko has been running this huge consortium that involves more than 300, if not 250 researchers in Canada, with many, many teams and group of researchers looking at different aspects of dementia. That goes from biomarkers of dementia, the genetic of dementia, and all the very fancy aspect of medical sciences, but also all the lifestyle intervention as well, and the social dimension of dementia as well. And it's really grouped around the primary prevention, secondary prevention, and tertiary prevention, so that how you manage the disease as well and increase and maintain quality of life in patients and caregivers in the context of dementia. It's a fantastic initiative. As many other large initiatives in the world, it's going to pay off on the long run, and we believe that it's going to make a huge difference. And right now, I would say that pretty much all Canadian researchers involved in the field are working with CCNA, and we're hoping to make a big difference.
That's terrific. Hopefully we can find a little more information. I've been asking Louis to write a little article in MyHeart.net, and maybe we could help link, to these association as well as to some of the research that you're conducting. I think we should really dedicate this podcast to, all of our patients and their family members with dementia. It's a very difficult problem. My mom was 89 years old, has dementia, and, my sister, Diane, is actually a judge in Montreal, and she's the caregiver. And it's really difficult, to kind of really manage patients. It's hard on the family and the caregivers as well. And you have also a little bit the same story, with your mom, having, and your grandmother, I think, haven't had, problem with dementia. And that's, it's really not easy. And the research that you're doing is so important and can make, I think, a lot of difference now and in the future with the years to come. So for this, I want to thank you, Dr. Louis Bherer from the Montreal Heart Institute, and can't wait to connect some more on some of the development that you get with the years to come.
Thank you. It was my pleasure to be with you for this podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
To learn more from our team of cardiologists, please visit us at MyHeart.net. You can also follow us on social media by searching MyHeart.net on Facebook and Twitter. And be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss our next episode.